Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Monday Q&A, so let's do it. Are year 1 noob gains limited to your first year of training, or do they apply to your first year post-fuckarounditis with proper programming such as your linear routine? Depends on who you ask. When I interviewed CJ Allen, who is a strength and conditioning coach working on his graduate degree in biomechanics, he says no, your noob gains are lost. If you train a year or two and you goof off too much, you miss that window of opportunity. He doesn't feel that you will make your noob gains. So you'll just you'll be gaining at the slow rate of someone who's been training for 2 years, whether you gain that initial burst or not. In my experience, I actually disagree with CJ, and not based upon scientific. It's based upon my own observations. I've seen it happen too many times. I've seen guys even on my novice program. I've seen people on other good programs that are just as good as my novice program who've done the same thing. They played around for a year or two, got on a proper heavy linear progression program with lots of big compound lifts, and they started making those fast gains again where they were putting on a couple pounds of muscle a month for a little while and finish out their noob gains. So there's a disagreement on that, but I feel just from my observation that no, you can go ahead and finish out whatever noob gains you missed to a large extent. All right, next question. Do you feel that the hormones used in our foods actually have a noticeable impact on our own hormones? Good question. Really depends. Do I think the anabolic steroids used in there do? No. And I mean, case in point, take something like what we give cattle. I grew up in Texas on a ranch. You give cattle 200 milligrams of trenbolone in a single implant 6 weeks before slaughter. Most of that is out of the animal's system. You might have 5 milligrams of it left in that entire cow's body. So if a person were to eat the entire cow in one day, you know, the 1,000-pound animal, and they get 5 milligrams of trenbolone, it's like 95% bioinactive. So they would end up getting a fraction of a milligram. That wouldn't be enough to even spike your blood levels from eating the entire cow in a day. So 1,000 pounds a day, you wouldn't even fail a drug test. So do I think they do? No. However, when it comes to some things like the antibiotics and even some of the estrogens and things they get, well, a lot of doctors have noticed that girls who drink a lot of milk reach puberty a lot sooner. They start menstruating a lot sooner. They grow a little taller. And this has been noticed with the estrogen that it's coming from the food, particularly dairy, things like that, can elevate prepubescent girls enough to speed up the maturity or development, which may be a bad thing in the long term. It could definitely contribute to higher incidences of certain types of cancers. It might even contribute to more younger men gaining breast tissue and gynecomastia and other things. So the estrogens very well may be a problem. I don't actually know off the top of my head if the research is conclusive on that, but I know quite a few doctors who do feel it is a real issue. So it is something you might want to be concerned with, particularly with developing children. And as far as the antibiotics and things, the same thing. The way that we treat animals in this factory farming, we have to pump certain types of them more than others with tons and tons and tons of antibiotics. This does contribute to things like MRSA and all these antibiotic-resistant bacteria that are out there as a result of that. And we know that all the runoff from the poop and everything from these farms oftentimes causes contamination in vegetables. And this is where we get E. coli in veggies and stuff like that. It's from the animal manure. And if tons of them have been pumped full of so many antibiotics, well, sometimes we get antibiotic-resistant strains of E. coli on our fruits and vegetables from the meat industry as a result of what they're pumping into them. So these things can be a concern in the long term. Yeah, they absolutely can be. All right, next question. Is it really true that microwaving food denatures the nutrients the food contains? I hope you mean denatures the protein, but cooking can also. But it's not always a bad thing. Sometimes the denatured protein is actually a slightly higher bioavailable form than the raw form was for a human being specifically, depending on what the protein is. So it's not always a bad thing. But as far as if you mean just cooking veggies in a microwave, no. In fact, sometimes it will preserve nutrients better than using an oven. Microwave is actually a fairly good method for cooking vegetables if you want to retain nutrients. And you just have to look at the way a microwave works. And I don't have time to break that down in a Q&A. You can go research for yourself what a microwave actually does at the atomic level and what it actually does from the perspective of chemistry. It's actually pretty straightforward. It's not as mysterious as you think it is. It essentially, if you want it in layman's terms, it boils foods from the inside that have any water in them. It raises the temperature of the water inside so that it boils them from the inside out very quickly. Alright guys, so that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.